Hi, this is Chuck King. Today on the King's Guide, we're paying a visit to Wandermere Golf Course, one of Spokane's most beloved outdoor entertainment locales.
Wandermere, Wandermere, the ice is clean and clear. Skating's always great, let's all skate at Wandermere.
Wandermere has been operated by 5 generations of the Ross family, going all the way back to the 1930s.
Robert Charles Ross and Mary Jane Ross were the ones that had the vision to build this. They're my great-grandparents, and they were in real estate actually in Spokane. They ultimately bought this place with the vision of having the year-round sports playground.
Ty Brown, a local school teacher, is the great-grandson of Robert Charles Ross, who started Wandermere in 1931. Sadly, Robert Ross died just a few years later, but his son stepped in to keep the family business going. Ty is currently writing a book on the history of Wandermere.
So my grandfather, Bill, was the one that owned and operated the golf course until he passed in the mid-70s. And his children, my mother and my uncle, they currently still own and operate the golf course today with their children. So I'm 4th generation, and there's a 5th generation that works here. So it's been a good family business since the early 1930s.
Before Wandermere was a golf course, it was mostly a farm and ranch land around Cook's Lake, owned by one of Spokane's beloved pioneers, Francis H. Cook.
What you're looking at here is the lake, and the lake is basically the reason why all of this is here. Francis H. Cook actually dug out and developed this lake from the natural spring waters that run along the side of the highway here. And so he originally used this as ice skating in the winter, and also he had an ice business where he would, in the wintertime, he would freeze the ice. There was an old ice house at the end of the lake there where they would store it in sawdust, and then they would ship it into town with horse-drawn carriage and sell it to the people in town. In the 1930s, it was dredged down. The tower out there was built with a diving tower, and they were able to use for swimming as well as for skating in the wintertime.
Francis H. Cook started Spokane's first newspaper, the Spokane Times, and began working on developing the Manitou neighborhood. Unfortunately, he lost a large fortune during the Panic of 1893.
He refused to file for bankruptcy, and he just fortunately was able to buy this piece of property from the railroad, and he had paid it off, and he just decided to move his family out here and start a farm. So before 1930, it was really a destination for outdoor sports. People came here and they hunted actually on the grounds down by the Little Spokane River. Skating was the big attraction here in Spokane at the time. Back then it was called Cook's Lake or LeBarre Lake, and then ultimately now it's called Wandermere Lake. And in the summertime, definitely was a playground for swimming. That whole back area there where the houses are, that was all sandy beach. And people would come here and have picnics. Knights of Columbus would have their annual picnic here, and just big service organizations would come here and picnic, swim. People would drop their kids off to, be entertained with swimming while they're out golfing on the golf course.
Ty's family built the clubhouse on the Wandermere grounds in 1931, and it took on a life beyond just that of a golf clubhouse.
The building itself, as mentioned, it was the first thing that they built. They call it the centerpiece of the golf course. The main level there is the front porch. As you can see there was open porch for the first 10-15 years of its existence, and they enclosed it. They put the pro shop in on the right side, and the left side is the lunch counter, and behind that they had what is known as the banquet room or the ballroom, and that's where they'd have the big social dances. They'd have orchestras play there. They had an orchestra pit. They'd have a lounge that was actually in the basement of the building at the time. What they had was a private social club in essence. In the late 1930s up until World War II, and then after World War II, it was run as a private club, so they could have 2 things. One, they could serve liquor 7 days a week, and they could also have slot machines. So it was known as the Wandermere Club. In 1952, that became illegal in the Washington State Supreme Court, and so that pretty much took both of those incentives away from being a private club, and then it basically went back to just being open to the public.
Winter activities at Wandermere evolved beyond just skating when the Ross family installed a toboggan hill and, more famously, a ski jump.
And then behind that, they had a toboggan. It wasn't a chairlift, it was more like a tow rope, and it was electric. And it would pull people up to the top of the hill, and then they would get on the toboggans. They'd rent the toboggans, and then they would fly down the hill and end up way out there, and they'd get up to pretty good speeds, 50, 60 miles an hour coming off this hill. and then they would just get back on the lift and go back up. So it was pretty nice. They didn't have to hike back up the hill. So Wandermere had ski jumping competitions. 1933 was the first one, and they basically had a ski jump built to the top of this hill, and they would ski and they would jump off and they would land well out there into the golf course. And they had several of those events, 33, 34, years beyond that, and then after the war they did it again one more time in 1954. And they had some world-class skiers that were here. They were going to actually have the Olympic trials here for the Winter Olympics, I believe in 39.
While the arcades, skating, and swimming are gone now, the golf course remains, and the legacy of the Ross family continues at Wandermere.
It's just nice to see as Spokane, evolves and urban sprawl and spreads out. Wandermere is basically now engulfed with, houses and businesses all around it. But it's nice to know that, the vision started so many years ago and it's still here, and it's like a little, calm in the storm, if you will, with all the urban development around here, and you can still come out and enjoy the natural scenery of the Little Spokane River and the lake and the golf course after all these years.
Look for news of Ty Brown's book on the history of Wandermere sometime in 2019. In the meantime, if you'd like more information, check out the Wandermere page on Facebook or visit them online at wandermere.com. I'm Chuck King. See you next time on the King's Guide. If you like today's goodies on Spokane history, make sure you subscribe to Nostalgia Magazine. You'll find more goodies in every issue. Ageless stories, ageless photos. That's Nostalgia Magazine.
Okay, so the lake has a lot of good stories too. Several people have driven their cars in the lake, and one guy actually was too drunk to drive, so he walked. So he walked alongside the lake and fell in the lake. He was frantically swimming, kicking his legs and moving his arms, and a gentleman walked over to the lake to help him get him out of there, and he basically just yelled, "Stand up!" And the guy stood up, and he was in about a foot of water, realizing that he wasn't gonna die.